Baruch Hashem, we are back together again. We are continuing and moving towards the end of an amazing, life-changing lesson in Likutey Moharan. This is the second lesson of the second section of Likutey Moharan, and it's called Yemei Chanukah. People want to know why we are doing a Hanukkah Torah if Hanukkah is over. And the beautiful thing about Rabbi Nachman's teachings are that the whole world is included in each of them. So it doesn't really apply to say, why are you learning this lesson now? With any of the lessons. They're all applicable. And if you are open to it, you will see exactly what's going on in your life with the lesson that you're learning at that time. Now, I'm not going to give a recap because it's been weeks that we've been working on it, but hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, as you move forward in the lesson, you'll be able to connect the dots. Ushleimut Adibur. We spoke so far about perfection of speech, and how the perfection of speech comes from truth. To the degree to which there is truth in your speech, to that degree your speech is perfect. Now, why do we care about speech being perfect? Because speech being perfect is speech which is responded to and answered. Rabbi Nachman very much wants us to get to the point that our prayers are answered, and we don't just read about it in books at Safra and the Judaica store from other people. Okay?
Yeah.
How do you ever get to the point that your prayers get answered like that? And the answer is when your prayers are infused with truth. Now, Rabbi Nachman gave us 3 methods of how to infuse your prayers with truth. And one of them is to pray. Make sure you pray. You can't pray with truth unless you're praying. Second is Torah. The Torah is the truth. So the degree to which that you infuse Torah into your prayers, to that degree, your prayers are truthful, right? That's why Rabbi Nachman encourages very much to turn Torah into tefillah. Turn what you learn into prayers. Why? Because that makes sure that everything that you're praying for is true. And to the degree that there's truth in your prayers, to that degree your speech is perfect. And Rabbi Nachman explains, what does perfect speech look like? So there's 4 aspects of it. There is speech which is empowering, right? You encourage others and you encourage yourself. Maybe we're not used to this because it's very foreign in this generation, and therefore we all are suffering from lack of self-confidence and want to be everybody else beside ourselves. So Rabbi Nachman says, but that's not the truth. It's not the truth. The truth is you're perfect. You're exactly who Hashem wants you to be. So I just need to connect to the truth, and then I'll get to appreciate myself, and I'll get to appreciate everybody else, right? Whenever you often see people and they're like, about other people, you can know one thing for sure, that person's not happy with themselves. You don't need to go to a therapist to even figure it out. It's like pretty obvious. When you see people who are really, really, really happy, feel really good about who they are and what they're doing, it doesn't mean that they're unbelievably talented or good looking or anything like that. They just feel like, they found themselves, right? That person is not going to be busy talking about how this person's not like this and this person's not like this, right? So Rabbi Nachman says this is the speech of tzedakah. That's a product of truth. So again, if you find yourself starting to say nice things to other people, and even, Rabbi Nachman says, starting to say nice things to yourself, that means that you are more connected to truth now. Your speech is more perfect. Then you have the speech of tshuva. That is, being able to say sorry. Very hard to say sorry. It's very hard to say sorry to your wife. It's very hard to say sorry to your kids. It's very hard to say sorry to Hashem. Now, even though religious Jews say it every day, but there's a difference between saying it and I actually feel sorry, right? If I feel like saying sorry to Hashem and actually wanting to change and become a better person, that means I'm connected to truth. If I don't feel like doing it, it means I'm not interested in growing, which means it's not really about a higher truth, it's about me. And whenever it's about ego, it's not the truth. Never the truth, okay? So that's number 2, speech of tshuva. Then we have the speech of what's called influence. Speech of influence. Influence with Hashem. This is the speech where I am able to ask Hashem for things, And even if he has decreed upon me or decreed upon the Jewish people something should happen, that I can advocate for Hashem to change that. Like Avram Avinu said that he, it's a pasuk in Tehillim, the one who loves righteousness and he hates evil. So comes the Midrash, and this is Midrash Rabbah on Vayikra, and it speaks about Avram Avinu, about this pasuk was about him. And it's not the way that you think it is. When he was advocating for the people of Stone, Hashem said about Abraham, you loved tzedek, meaning you love to vindicate people, right? Because tzedek can either mean it's like righteousness, right? You're doing the right thing. But to be matzdik somebody means that you are looking to judge them favorably. You're looking to vindicate them. You're looking to empower and to advocate for the downtrodden, right? So Avraham was the first social worker. And in that way, Hashem said, you love tzedek. And he says, you hate evil. What does it mean you hate evil? It means you hate to put blame on people. So mamish, like you see Rabbi Nachman's teachings come to life of a Zamra with Avraham Avinu, it's like mamish a midrash about Avraham. This is why Hashem, it says, spoke to Avraham. He said, I didn't speak for anyone from Noach to you because you are constantly looking to advocate for people around you, and you are looking not to place blame on them, but to judge them favorably. And therefore Hashem spoke to Avraham. It's an amazing thing. Okay?
So the Kedushas Levi just 2,000 years earlier.
Right. Well, where do you think you got it from? Okay? But Rabbi Nachman's Chiddush is that your ability to do that is connected to Shmirat HaBrit. We won't go back into that, why that is. But essentially, your Brit is connected to your Das. It's connected to your higher consciousness, right? For you to be able to advocate for people who doesn't seemingly deserve it, and then for people who do the wrong thing, that you're looking to take away blame from them and look for a reason that it's not their fault, right? That's not a normative consciousness. You don't see kids do that unless they're very mature, they're raised in a certain way. It's only once people mature, they grow, not just physically, but they grow mentally, and they get to appreciate that people come from circumstances. It's not just a matter of they did this thing. You know, like the story of the Baal Shem Tov, where his dad told him before he was passed away. So his dad was, Baal Shem Tov was 3 years old when his dad passed away, and Baal Shem Tov's dad famously said to him, Shuli, I want you to remember these two things, and live with these two things only. Fear Hashem only, exclusively. And love every single Jewish man and woman, no matter what they've done in their life. Okay? And these are the two tenets of Chassidut, right? Because when you think about Breslov, especially, the whole thing is about reorienting my relationship to Hashem, that everything is really through that prism, right? So you always hear stories of Hasidic masters that even when there was authorities, or there was decrees, or there was like all of these different things, they didn't get nervous, they didn't get scared, they could have had non-Jews with guns to their heads, and they're like, you know, like the Baal Tanya said, you're more scared of that gun than I am. Now, where did that come from? Because they cultivated through years and years of the Baal Shem Tov's path, which is to have only fear of Hashem. Now, what's the chiddush about that? The Torah says over and over again that you should have yirat Hashem. The chiddush is that the Baal Shem Tov was a deep psychological prescient, and therefore he understood that when something is not directed towards Hashem, it automatically devolves and it becomes damaging. So like for instance, a person might say to himself, why do we need yirat Hashem? Right? It's not so exciting, right? It's not so fun. It doesn't sound to me like I want to send my kid to a school where they teach him to have fear of Hashem. Like that sounds very Haredi. It sounds very religious, you know? Maybe I don't feel like I'm holding there, or I don't want to even be holding there. Okay, so comes the Baal Shem Tov to teach. You do not have a choice about whether you have fear of things. You only get to choose what you fear. And the Baal Shem Tov says, if you fear Hashem only, you won't fear anything else. And the Zohar says that fear of Hashem is actually the place of shalom, peace. And wherever you find real yirat shamayim, you're going to find peace. And you see this with tzaddikim, that when you see people, they have tremendous yirat shamayim, they're not heavy people. They're not scary people. they look like they really have found peace in their life. And that's the hadith. And we see this with Yerushalayim, right?
You don't choose whether you have fear or not, only just where you direct it.
Yes, and it's like that with everything.
What do you mean? Like you're saying I was scared of, I don't know, X, Y, Z, I don't know, the spiders, and now I'm not scared of the spiders, whatever.
Okay. What I mean is, fear is a natural part of the human experience. It's a natural part of creation. Your only choice is, what do you fear? You have to fear something, right? So now it doesn't sound so popular to say, well, I want to fear Hashem, right? I grew up secular. I was an atheist my whole life. Like, this concept made it very difficult for me to connect to the Torah because it's brought up so many times. But when you get to understand it deeper, it starts to make sense. Because as a person who was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, right? So what am I busy thinking about all the time? I'm always scared what people think about me. I'm always afraid if I don't do this exactly like this isn't gonna work out. This girl's not gonna like me. I'm gonna mess this up. I'm fearful of many different things, right? And secular people in general, if you hang out with secular people, right? I grew up in this place. You're gonna see, especially with Jewish people, all the highest degree of anxiety and neuroticism, and trying to always make sure I'm doing things to make sure that I'm putting myself in a good position. If that means me washing my hands more than most people, if that means seeing the doctor more than most people, why are Jews doing that? Because actually within a Jew is fear. So the Baal Shem Tov's novelty is that you don't choose whether you have that fear. You just choose where you direct that fear. And the beautiful thing that the Torah is telling you is, if you direct it towards Hashem, that fear leads to shalom, peace. Whereas if I don't fear Hashem, I fear people, place, and things, I have an anxiety disorder. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Now, obviously, it would ruin a lot of Jewish humor, because we get some of the best humor from this type of stuff. But this is what King David made the city of Yerushalayim, the city of Hashem. Why is this the place where a person can most deeply connect to Hashem? Because it's a combination of two words: Yira, Shalom, Yerushalayim. What do these two things have to do with each other? King David's trying to tell you, listen, I know you're not going to believe me, but if you have Yira, you're going to find peace. Rabbi Nachman once said, people are always chasing after treasure, right? Everyone's looking after money. Everyone's running after babki, as they would say in Queens by my Moharan students, looking after the greens. So he said, I don't know why the whole world is not running after me. I am a treasure house of Yirat Shamayim. So your person might say, well, that's the reason they're not running after you, because nobody wants Yirat Shamayim. That's the answer is in the question.
Yeah.
But he was saying more than that. That's the problem, that they don't know to run after that. They're going to find peace, and who doesn't want to find peace? Okay? That's what the Torah is offering us. I'm sorry, because my memory right now is a little bit disjointed, so I don't know what we were talking about before that. You don't choose where. Same thing with love, right? You don't get to choose if you love. You just get to choose what you love. You can either choose to love food, or sex, or drugs, or you can choose to love Hashem, Jews, the Torah, the land of Israel. But you don't get to choose if you love. You have to love. You choose. That's why the Torah says over and over again, here is life and here is death. Choose life. Why do you need the Torah to tell you choose life? Because that's all you have, is the ability to choose. Nothing that we have been given in and of itself is bad or destructive or unhealthy. It's only, where do I choose to invest that thing? Where do I choose to invest that love? Where do I choose to invest that fear? Where do I choose to invest that kindness, right? Like, for instance, the Torah calls rape chesed. In the Torah, it literally says that an act of rape is called chesed, kindness. type of kindness is chesed? Well, if you understand what is chesed, chesed means kindness without limits. What is rape? I have an attraction to this person and I have no boundaries. That's what it ends up looking like. I want this person and I don't care about the consequences. That's called chesed. So again, chesed's not bad. Avraham was ish chesed. He was the first person to reveal God in the world. Chesed is bound up with the Torah. A person who's not kind is not a Jew. So the answer is, how are you allocating your chesed, your kindness, right? Rachamim. I used to give money to every single person I saw, right? Even before I was religious. If I saw a poor person, he asked me for money, I gave him the money. Even if he smelled like liquor, even if he was drunk off his rocker, I would give him the money. Why? Because that's compassionate. And then the Torah says, that's not compassionate. That's the cruelest thing you can do. If he has an alcohol problem and you're funding his alcohol problem, you're enabling him. Now, that's not to say that, there's not other ways I can help that person, and the Torah is not telling you just pretend he doesn't exist, right? Like we said earlier in the group, you're supposed to see what's lacking in the world and try to fill that lack. But in this case, that's not filling the lack, it's increasing the lack. Make sense? Okay, so that's why we need Torah, because the Torah tells you how do you invest in a way which is healthy. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't know. Therefore, this thing which is called the Yesod, when I have worked on what's called Shmirat HaBrit, not wasting seed, not allocating my seed in that way, right? So in Kabbalah they teach that the Yesod is the most directly connected to higher consciousness. So therefore, when I have Shmira in this area, now I'm able to advocate for other people because I realize that they're really good. And you see this very clearly. Who is the paradigm of Shmirat HaBrit in the Torah? Yes. Yosef HaTzadik. And you'll notice what's his whole life about. He's a shepherd. He is constantly trying to help his brothers, look after his brothers, even while they're hurting him. And then even after everything gets really, really bad, like horribly bad, like a nightmare, as soon as he sees them, he's crying and he's telling them, don't be mad, don't be angry at yourself, don't fight with each other. Where are you getting this level of wanting to advocate for people who you feel like don't really know what you know? It's coming from the Yesod. It's coming from Shmirat HaBrit. And then finally, the last aspect of perfect speech is Malchut, which is that I use my capacity to influence others in a positive way. And again, here is just a basic tenet of Chassidus, okay? It's the foundation of Chassidus, one of the foundations of Chassidus. Everything only works when it's directed towards Hashem. So what is called influence, which is based in Kedusha? What is influence, which is healthy for me and healthy for other people? When I'm influencing others and I'm influencing myself to draw closer to Hashem. And if I'm trying to influence someone else to do something besides that, I have misappropriated influence, okay? How do I get to the point that I am like cognizant of all of these things, that I have speech which is empowering speech, and I have speech of tshuva, and I have speech of advocating for Jews who can't fight for themselves, and I have speech of influencing other Jews and myself to draw closer to Hashem? What's going to cause me to want to do that? And Rabbi Nachman says the truth. The more that you connect to the truth and to bring truth into your life, the more that you will be compelled to speak in this way. And once you have this fourfold speech, Rabbi Nachman says your speech is called perfect. And now Rabbi Nachman says like this, Shleimut HaDibur, this perfect speech, Hu Bechinat Lashon HaKodesh. This is what the Torah calls Lashon HaKodesh, okay? Holy tongue. Why? Ki kol lashonot ha'amim heim chaserim. Because all the languages of the non-Jewish world are lacking. The ein lahem shlemut. There's not perfection in their language. There's always something which is lacking in their tongue. Ki nikra'in lashon ilgim. Because it says the Navi Yeshaya, when he was speaking about the king Achaz, right? And he was not a good king. And in fact, he wasn't a big fan of many things that the Torah teaches about, right? And so he was constantly trying to deride the Torah, mock the Torah, bring people away from the Torah, right? And Yeshaya said that speech by him is like the speech of stammerers. Stammered speech. What's the connection between stammered speech? Stammered speech is the speech that's not Lashon HaKodesh. When a person is able to articulate his own thoughts through speech in a way that you can convey what it is that you're thinking and feeling, and the person who hears you experiences it and is moved by it, that's called Lashon HaKodesh. The Torah says that Hashem created the world through Lashon HaKodesh. Why did he create the world through Lashon HaKodesh? To teach you that speech can either create or it can destroy. But the only time that it can create for you in a positive way, that you can recreate your life, that you can add positivity to your life and the life of those around you, is when you achieve this thing which is called Lashon HaKodesh. So very simply, Lashon is the concept of tongue, right? It's speech. Kodesh, in Kabbalah, is the sphere of Chokhmah. Means that my speech is rooted in wisdom. That's when speech is effective. That's when speech will change your life. It says in the 73rd or 74th Torah in Likutey that the Torah, when you learn it and you don't understand it, it gives Hashem tremendous nachat. But it can't heal you. When can the Torah heal you? The Torah can only heal you when you understand what you're learning. Okay? Rabbi Nachman said 3 things are a mitzvah gedola. Most people know. Rabbi Nachman says a mitzvah gedola to be b'simcha tamid. Many songs, bumper stickers like this. That was actually a lesson in the Likutey Moharan. It's a mitzvah gedola to be happy always. But most people don't know the other 2. One of them is that on Shabbat, it's a mitzvah gedola to have a fully set table. So, like the Sephardim do it. Salads everywhere, right? Drinks, nuts, sunflower seeds, right? That your table is fully set. He says a mitzvah gedola. And the last one, which again, this goes against all of the stigma with Breslov and on Chassidus in general. He says it's a mitzvah gedola to know whatever you can know as well as you can know it. And why is he using that language? Because anybody who knows Breslov Chassidus and Rabbi Nachman's teachings knows that certain things Rabbi Nachman was a very big fan of you learning, and certain things Rabbi Nachman didn't want you to touch or even look at, even if you don't see the text inside the book. He doesn't even want you to gaze at that thing, okay? Which in this case is philosophy or secular wisdom, right? We're not going to get into that right now, but what he's saying is those things that the Torah says is good for you to learn, it would be the best possible thing for you to know that as much as possible. Okay, to understand as much as possible. Why? Because that's actually when it heals you. Now, what's the reason for that? Because Rabbi Nachman says that all healing happens when something is reconnected to its root. It becomes sublimated in its source. When you can take something and elevate it back to its source, you heal that thing. Okay? Now, what's the source of all things? Chokhmah. Chokhmah. Hashem created everything in this world bechokhmah. Right? Now, what does that mean? That means that everything in this world is rooted in Chokhmah. So when you can reconnect something back to Chokhmah, it heals. Now, what is the root of speech? Chokhmah, wisdom. So therefore, when my speech is infused with Chokhmah, it heals. So too here, that's Lashon HaKodesh. It's the language of the Torah. Why is it Lashon HaKodesh and why are all other languages not comparable? They're all lacking because they lack true wisdom. Because there's a difference between wisdom and information, right? If you read Aristotle, or you read Socrates, or you read Nietzsche, or you read whatever, it might be fascinating to you. You might be up all night with it. You might get really excited by it. It might, right? But you don't get married because of reading that. You probably alienate yourself from your wife when you start speaking about those things. She's like, what are you talking about, right? Okay? It doesn't motivate you to want to become a better person. You kind of get like lost in this matrix that they're presenting in the book, and you don't necessarily have a better life that comes from it. So the Torah says that's not wisdom. That might be information, but information that doesn't help you is not wisdom. The Torah wants to give you wisdom. Rabbi Nachman wants to give you wisdom. That's Lashon HaKodesh. The Ein Shlemut Rak LaLashon HaKodesh. There's only perfection by Lashon HaKodesh. And now, Lashon HaKodesh Hu Makusher LaShabbat. Tomorrow night is Shabbat. So we have, Bezrat Hashem, a beautiful lesson to go into Shabbat with. What is that lesson? That Lashon HaKodesh is directly connected to Shabbos. B'bechina, like the Pasuk says, V'daber davar. And in Masechet Shabbat, there's a famous dictum in Masechet Shabbat. It says, Shalo yahei diburcha shel Shabbat, ki diburcha shelcho. Your speech on Shabbat shouldn't be like your speech during the week. Which the Gemara ends up expounding out from that, and Rashi as well, that you shouldn't speak about financial transactions. You shouldn't be speaking about business on Shabbos. Why? Because business is a weekday type of deal. Okay? So this is very basic halakha in the Gemara, which is brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. Your speech on Shabbos shouldn't be like your speech during the week. But Rabbi Nachman is adding another layer to it. It's not that it shouldn't be. It's that they're not the same. Shabbos speech is not weekday speech. Holy speech is not mundane speech. Positive speech is not destructive speech. They're not the same thing. And therefore, Lashon HaKodesh is directly connected to Shabbos. Tivchina, like it says, Ko Tavarchu. Thus you should bless. It says Masechet Sota, B'Lashon HaKodesh. What is it speaking about? When we get the blessing of the Kohanim. Many of the blessings in the Torah, you're allowed to say in a different language. However, the blessing of Kohanim, you can only say in Lashon HaKodesh. Why? Because when Hashem says, thus the Kohanim should bless, he says, Ko Tavarhu, thus they should bless. So the sages learn out from that, thus means just like this. Like the way I'm saying it, in Hebrew, okay? Sheb'Lashon HaKodesh, Nichlal Bracha U'Kedusha. Because in Lashon HaKodesh is encompassed all blessing and holiness. Ki Lashon HaKodesh Mekusher LaShabbos. Now this is the important point. Where is Lashon HaKodesh getting its Kedusha and its bracha from? Where is it getting its blessing and its holiness from? It's getting it from Shabbos. So if you want to think about it, think about Shabbos as like the husband, and think about Lashon HaKodesh as like the wife. She is receiving her shefa from her husband. So even though Lashon HaKodesh is the whole purpose of this Torah is to get us to perfected speech, and we're going to see why in a moment, but that perfected speech is perfect to the degree that it's connected to Shabbos. And that's why in Shabbos, you should only speak in ways that are Kodesh.
So you're saying, I perfected all my 4 types of speech, tzedakah, and enabling, and empowering, and this and that. It happens to be that you're still talking about business on Shabbos. There's going to be a pagam in that speech.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So they're only going to get their koach from that Shabbos.
Yes.
Probably the degree I can make my Shabbos even more kodesh and more b'simcha, and more care about it, then it's going to affect.
That's right.
Okay.
The more perfect your speech will become, the more you're going to draw down what's possible in Shabbos. That's what we're going to bring right now. Shenemar, where else do we say that there's bracha and kedusha? Kamosha katuv v'yivarech v'kadesh. We say it every Shabbos on Friday night, that we're doing kiddush, that we should bless and sanctify, right? So this is speaking about the coming in of Shabbat. So Rabbi Nachman is saying, you learn from this that kedusha and bracha is directly related to Shabbos. All kedusha and all bracha comes from Shabbos. And the fact that Lashon HaKodesh has that koach to bring blessing into your life, like when the Kohanim bless you, it's supposed to give you parnasa, it's supposed to give you shmira, it's supposed to bring you kedusha. Why? Because it's in Lashon HaKodesh. But where is it getting that koach from? Shabbos. Shabbos. Okay. Al ken al yedei Lashon HaKodesh mekush l'Shabbos, and therefore they're connected. Al ken al yedei shleimut hadibur, therefore through perfection of speech, which is the concept of Lashon HaKodesh, al yedei zeh, through this mamshichin asimcha shel Shabbat l'sheshet yemei hachol. We all know that Rabbi Nachman wants us to be happy, and he wants us to be happy all the time. But that doesn't sound realistic. And even if it was, where is he getting this happiness from? Well, he doesn't have financial problems, he doesn't have health issues, his kids are all doing great, right? Life was hunky-dory. Where is he getting this joy from that he's happy all the time? Doesn't seem normal. And I wouldn't be seeing a therapist all the time if I knew how to do that. Rabbi Nachman says it'd be great if you'd be happy always. But on the other hand, Rabbi Nachman also says that the highest madrega and the hardest thing to obtain is joy. Okay? So obviously it's not the joy of blazing and jumping on top of cars. It's a much deeper joy than that. It's a much more intense joy than that. It is inside of you. It permeates your being. You're filled with joy. Where is that joy coming from? So let's look at the world. Is it coming from the world? So Rabbi Nachman said, this world, what's this world? I don't see a world. I just see Gehenna. I don't mean to get too intense, but if that's the case, if Rabbi Nachman really felt like that, so what's making him happy? Shabbos. Shabbos can make him so happy that he's always happy, despite the fact that he's living in hell? Yes. You know why? Because Shabbos is me'ein olam haba. What is Shabbos? Shabbos is the world to come. Why do we have Shabbos? So we can remember where we're going. Because if you don't have that day every week, you might lose yourself. 6 days I'm working, I'm toiling, I'm trying, I'm fighting, I'm falling down, I'm trying to get back up, right? And I could just totally lose myself. And all of a sudden Shabbos comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's okay. Everything's okay. My wife's here, my kids are here, even if they're not, things are okay. But then Shabbos ends and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right? What's going on? It's because you're remembering that there's something after this. And that thing that after this is really good. And we're going there. It's not just that we're going there. Olam Haba is bringing us there. People think that we're here and hopefully one day we'll be able to get there. That's not what's happening. The Arizal says Olam Haba comes from the fact that the Olam is ba, it's always coming. Meaning, Rav Kook speaks about this, that the world to come is drawing this world into it. It's like a gravitational force. That's why things are moving so quickly now, because we're getting towards the end. Why is technology advancing at such an expeditious pace? Because Olam Haba sees that it's so close. So as it's coming closer, right? It's not like we're just stumbling and bumbling along. And Shabbos is supposed to remind you of that. Shabbos is supposed to remind you of that. Rabbi Nachman says that the ikar of zikaron, the ikar of memory is Olam Haba. Right? You think a good memory is, I have photographic memory. Rabbi Nachman said that's not good memory. Who has good memory? The Torah says over and over again, remember. 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 Look at the tzitzit and remember. Look at the mezuzah, remember. Do this, remember. You see over and over, remember. And on the other hand, it says don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. What's this whole thing remembering? Rabbi Nachman says, remember Olam Haba. That's good memory. That's amazing memory. So how's that memory? I thought memory is only in the past. How do you remember the future? And the answer must be, it already exists. It already exists. We're moving towards it. We just aren't there within time and space, but it's there, and we're there. Remember that. Because if you disconnect it from the events that are taking place in your life, you're going to come out with many twisted conclusions. One is, Hashem is cruel. 2, He doesn't care about me. 3, my life sucks. 4, nothing's going the way I was hoping it was gonna. 5, I hate my parents. 6, my brother's the worst. Right? And the list goes on and on and on and on. And on. Like, what is this? I don't understand. The Torah says Hashem wants to give us all the good. That's why He created us. The Arizal said Hashem made us so He can show us His compassion. What compassion? Where's the compassion? The Ramchal says it's obviously not in this world. Just look at the world. It can't be here. It can't be here. So how do you live a good life? Because the Torah wants you to be happy. Really, Mamish wants you to be happy. And for sure, Rabbi Nachman wants you to be happy. All the time. How do you be happy all the time? By remembering. What do you remember? Shabbos. It says that you should take Shabbos and bring it into your week. So most people understand this, which is halachically, is I need to have some type of zecher, some type of memory where I remember Shabbos in the morning or whatever. It's like, no. What does it mean to bring Shabbos into your weekday? It means to remember Olam Haba. It's like one time Rav Natan, after he met Rabbi Nachman, he got so souped up and excited and jacked up about spirituality. And he's like, oh my gosh, I just want to learn and pray and do this. And I don't even want, whatever. So his wife got nervous about him. It's like, Natan's acting different recently. He's just like shuckling a lot, and he's not working as much in the office. He's not spending as much time schmoozing with his friends. What's going on with Natan? Something's wrong with him. And every time that she saw him after he came back from Rabbi Nachman, he became more detached, less involved in what she's used to, less working in the office. And finally, she got so overwhelmed by the fact that he wasn't working in the office and he's the one who's supporting them. She came to him and she says, Natan, what are you doing? You need to work and support the family. He said, I know, but it's just really hard to work now that I know what I know. So she said, okay, but you still have to because we are living together and you need to support the family. And eventually got to the point where she got so frustrated with him because he wasn't hearing. She went to her father, who was a big Talmid Chacham, and she told her father, I want to get divorced from Natan. And the dad, who didn't even seem to be such a big fan of him and was probably as concerned or more concerned than the daughter, said, after he met Rabbi Nachman, is he learning less Torah? Have you noticed that his learning has decreased? So she said, no. If anything, he's never learned more in his life. So he said, then you cannot divorce your husband. So she did it. Okay? Now, but every time Natan came to Rabbi Nachman in the beginning, he would open his heart. Because Rabbi Nachman said, when you go to the tzaddik, what's the point? That you should mamish just give forth everything in your heart. Say whatever is going on. So he'd say, you don't understand, I'm fighting with my wife like crazy, she wants me to work, but it's too much work, and I don't know how I can do this because I realize Hashem exists, and I matter, and this whole thing, it's very hard for me to work now. So Rabbi Nachman said, well, how much do you work? He said, well, originally I was working 10 hours a day, but then when I met you, I started working 8 hours a day, and he said, 8 hours? And he said, yeah. Rabbi Nachman said, what about Olam Haba? And he got jolted, and he went back and he started working less than that. And again, the fighting is starting or whatever, and then he comes back however many weeks later to Breslov and says, my wife is so upset with me, and he says, I need to work more. And Rabbi Nachman said, well, how much are you working? She said, well, now I'm working 6 hours a day. Rabbi Nachman said, well, what about Olam Haba?
Yeah, I just want.
One way to understand this is that Rabbi Nachman was not a big fan of working. But there's a much more essential teaching from here. It's not the problems in your life that are causing you distress. It's the fact that you are forgetting about Olam Haba. You don't think that this is leading anywhere good, or you've lost sight of that. And because of that, it takes on a whole different weight. I always give this example. If you go to the gym, right? Person knows what it's going to turn out like. That person looks forward to the gym even. He's excited about it. But there's no doubt that scientifically that's a painful experience. You're ripping muscle fibers. So how can a person like that at the gym, but if I tripped on the street, I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm such a loser. My leg is now all messed up and I have to go to the doctor, and it's like a whole schlep. And it's a whole concern, and it's like, what is this? So what's the difference between these two things? There's only one difference. In this case, I remembered that through this, there's going to be good. In this case, I lost sight of that. I don't think something is good coming out of this, and therefore, it's painful. So Rabbi Nachman is saying to Rav Natan, and he's saying to all of us, it's not the events in your life that are causing you pain. It's the fact that you are forgetting. You're forgetting Olam Haba. This world only makes sense in context with the fact that it's leading to that place. If you divorce those two, this world doesn't make any sense at all. And Hashem doesn't make any sense at all. And the Torah doesn't make any sense at all. Mamash doesn't make any sense. Okay? So that's Shabbos. That's why Rabbi Nachman says, Ki yemei achol heim bechinat atzvut, because the days of the week, they are the concept of sadness. So if you feel sad during the week, it's normal. It's okay. It's normal to feel sad during the week. You know why? Because the days of the week are representative of 6,000 years in this world. And guess what? This world is Gehenna. So if you weren't sad from this world, there would be something wrong with you. It's normal to feel sad. And even the mitzvot that you do during the week, they're also on the concept of sadness. Right? Like we were just talking about before. You're so pumped to go to shul. So pumped to do that mitzvah. You're so excited, you can't wait. No, it's heavy. It's hard to get up. It's hard to do this thing. I don't want to do this thing. It's hard to do it. Okay, I'm doing it. I feel good about the fact that I did it after, but it's heavy. It's heavy. Why is it so heavy? Because you're doing these mitzvahs during the week, meaning in this world. And guess what? This world and these 6 days are the concept of sadness. Now, why is that? Because in Kabbalah it teaches in Tikkuni Zohar, metat shaltune shaltanute b'me'achol. The Zohar says that on Shabbat, Hashem himself has full hashgacha pratit. Everything is only divine providence on Shabbos. Well, what about during the week? Tikkuni Zohar says that Hashem has an eved. He has a slave. It's called metat. I'm not supposed to say the whole names. Okay? Called metat. What happens? He enclothes himself through metat, and metat is the one who controls what takes place during the week. However, the problem is that if it's not Hashem, it doesn't feel compassionate. Right? Metat has dominion during the week, and because of that, it feels like sadness. Why? Because metat hu bechinat eved. Because where does sadness come from? Sadness comes from one thing: slavery. Now this whole story of leaving Mitzrayim takes on this unbelievably deep, profound reality. Because if I understand now that really what is slavery? Slavery is sadness, depression. What was Moshe trying to save us from? Depression. What was the cause of our depression? Slavery. So if a person struggles with depression, something that I've spoken about very often, that I've struggled with my whole life, now you think the depression and the sadness is coming from purely a genetic disorder. That's what they're going to teach you. Rabbi Nachman says sadness is actually coming from avdut, that you feel enslaved. What do I feel enslaved to? My circumstances, my condition, my desires, my behaviors. I am enslaved. The fact that I feel that I can't get better, I can't change, that's what's causing the depression, right? A person who's going through a million challenges but feels like they're going to turn out for the good and they can get better, he doesn't get depressed from them. Doesn't mean they're easy. They're still challenging, but he doesn't move into sadness. Where is sadness coming from? Slavery. And what is the whole essence of slavery? Yeush, hopelessness. You're not in control. Someone else is in control of you. That is a very, 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 it's a feeling that does not sit well. And that's the days of the week. They make you feel like that. Aval Shabbat, shehu bechinat ben. However, Shabbat is the concept of a son. What is a son? He's free. When we have Pesach coming up, and we're going out of being a slave to being Hashem's children, that's what Hashem was telling them. Moshe, go tell Paro to let my children go. Let my children go. Now the Jewish people didn't feel like anybody's children in Mitzrayim. You know what they felt like? Slaves. So what was Moshe's message to them? Paro is not making you feel like a slave. Paro is not making you feel sad. It's the fact that you don't realize that you're somebody's child. As long as you do not realize that you are the son of the king, automatically you will be enslaved by this world and everything that happens in it. Moshe says, you are B'nai Yisrael, you are the Bachur, you are the Reshit of Hashem, you are Hashem's children. And that's how you're free, and that's Shabbos. Now in Kabbalah, not to get too confusing, but there are 4 main worlds, okay, which are corresponding to the 4 main levels of your soul, which are corresponding to the 4 letters of Hashem's name. The 4 worlds are Asiya, the world of action, which is our world, the lowest world. Then you have the world of Yetzira, which is the world of formation. It's one a little bit higher than it. You have the world of Bria, world of creation, which is higher than that. And then finally you have the world of Atzilut, world of Atzilut, which is the world of emanation. Okay? In the Tanya, those 3 lower worlds are called worlds of Perud, of separation. Whereas the world of Atzilut is the world of Achdut, unity. So the main distinction between these 3 lower worlds that we're usually busy with and this highest world of Atzilut is that these 3 lower worlds, we experience it as division, machloket, separation, perud. Whereas this world of Atzilut, where we're heading to, where we're supposed to remember, the place that we want to connect to, the place that we want to reach, place of Atzilut, this is the world of unity. Okay? Shabbos is like Atzilut. Shabbos is when Hashem himself has full dominion over the day. On purpose, meaning it's not like someone usurped his authority during the week. He gave it over to the Eved, okay? And there's a reason for that. But on Shabbos, it's just him. So you actually feel like you're Hashem's son. That's the concept of ben, to be free. Ben comes from this world of Atzilut. When you are connected to these 3 lower worlds, you feel like an Eved, like a slave. Va'az naicha le'ilayin v'tatayin. Yes.
Ab.
Yeah.
Ab is isn't that the top one?
Av is Atzilut.
And then the Ben. Which one is the Ben?
Ben. Oh, so Ban is the
52.
lowest world, but the Ban is not Ben.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Gematria 52, but it's not
Not that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The concept of Ben means that you're free.
It's Atzilut.
Yeah, that's Atzilut.
Shabbos.
Yeah, that's Shabbos. Then there is rest above and there's rest below. Benito rare simcha, and that is what arouses joy. When does a Jew feel joy? When he feels free. Freedom is what leads you to feel joy. Like Rabbi Nachman has this famous thing that he gives over in Sichot Torah, and he says if you take a coin and you put it over your eye, and you look up, you won't see anything. Now, it could be you're looking at the sun, and that sun might be 1,000,000 times bigger than the coin, but you don't see the sun. How can it be that you don't see something which is 1,000,000 times bigger than the small thing that you're looking at? Because if that thing is right over your eye, that's the power of something blocking your vision. You can miss something which is 1,000,000 times greater than what you're experiencing if you're looking at the wrong thing. Okay, in that case, what's the wrong thing? Rabbi Nachman says, when we are giving all of our koach to taiva, right? When I am only thinking about when's my next meal, when do I get this time alone in front of my computer, when is this and when is that, right? And that's what's guiding me. Now, a person thinks that's freedom, right? In the secular world, that's freedom. In the movies, in social media, right? What's happening? Things are becoming much less filtered, right? Cursing is not blanked out anymore. The way that women dress is becoming less and less clothing, right? All those things. So a secular person says this is freedom. Religious people are slaves, right? That's how I thought. But the chiddush of Rabbi Nachman is no. Because as long as you are being guided always by something which is physical, you have no greater reason for what you're doing, you're actually a slave. And guess what? When a person's a slave, you know what he automatically feels? Depression. If you look at mental health illness and you look at depression rates and anxiety rates, they've never been higher. Why are they so high right now? We've never had more physically. Food, drinks. People today, like a normal average person, has more than what kings used to eat on their table. Kings of entire peoples. Like the ones that you watched when you were growing up in movies, that they're like, slobbering out of their mouth, and they're big and hulky, and they're like, "Get me there," and they bring out like the chicken stick and like the whatever. Like, we have much more than that, even if you have, like, you make like minimum wage. You have much more than that. So why are we so unhappy? We have more physically than we've ever had in history. So why are we so unhappy? Rabbi Nachman says that's why you're so unhappy. The more that you invest and you're trying to receive your joy from physical things, the further it's going to come from you. And Rabbi Nachman also gives a mashal. He says, look at it when it comes to money, right? A person chases after money. Let's say he makes more of it. You know what happens when a person makes a lot of money? It gets further from him. How does that work? Because when I had a little money, I just put it in my pocket. What happens when I have more than that? I put it in my wallet. So it's closer to me, it's further from me. It's further. What happens when I make more than that? I got to put it in the bank. The bank's further from me, it's closer to me. It's further. So the more money I have, the further it's getting from me. What happens if I'm, who's that guy who made Tesla? That guy doesn't have money in banks. It's all like in, what are those places called? Those, on those islands where they have the, what is that called?
The Cayman Islands?
Like the Cayman Islands in the, what?
Bahamas?
The Swiss,
Yeah, but Swiss
banks.
Yeah, the Swiss banks.
They
For
give
the,
you extra
for the unbelievably 0.001% rich people in the world. Now all my money's in the Bahamas. I don't live in the Bahamas, I live in the United States. So Rabbi Nachman says an unbelievable thing. The more that you achieve physical wealth, the further it gets from you. Which is crazy. A person might say, well, I could just go on my phone and tap, but just think about that. Why is it like that? Now, Rabbi Nachman says, now think about spirituality. Says it's the opposite. The more you invest in spirituality, the closer it gets to you. Right? When a person first starts doing tshuva, it's very far from him. So when he starts learning, it feels very awkward and uncomfortable, and I don't enjoy it. Why? Because it's spiritual. It's actually good for me. But the more I invest in it, the more I connect to it, the more I try to make it a part of my life, the more that I have perseverance in it, the closer it gets to me, and the happier it makes me. So it's the direct opposite. These days of the week represent the physical world. That's why they're sadness, because they turn you into a slave. But Shabbat is the sun, and then there's rest above and below, and joy is aroused. Vazai nitromin v'nitalin kol mitzvot shel sheishet me'achol mina atzvut. And what happens on Shabbat is that as a result of all the mitzvot you did during the 6 days of the week, once joy is awakened, it raises the mitzvah out of atzvut. Okay, so to try to break this down a little bit. In the Zohar, it says that atzvut is the sitra achra. Depression is the evil of the world. Okay? Now, it's trying to tell you something which is instructive, not just to tell you, like, this is not good for you. Everyone knows it's not good for you. It doesn't feel good to feel sad, right? It's very damaging, and it causes me to be dysfunctional, right? Nobody likes that experience. So if someone told me this is evil, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But when it says evil, it means that there are klipot in the world. There are shells, husks in the world, which siphon off godly energy, right? Positive energy, your life force. Now, what is that main husk called? The Zohar says, and Rabbi Nachman is always alluding to this, it's called atzvut, sadness. Sadness is a husk. Now, what's within that husk of sadness? Simcha. Right? And psychology is busy with this. Confront the sadness, and you will release the joy. Well, where are you releasing joy? Why should I release joy from confronting sadness? How do these two things connect? The answer is because joy is the Shekhinah, Rabbi Nachman says. The divine presence is happiness, but the Shekhinah is in exile. What does it mean Shekhinah is in exile? She's trapped in atzvut, sadness. She's trapped in the 6 days of the week. She's trapped in chutz la'aretz. What happens on Shabbos? Your simcha, once it's aroused, it pulls your mitzvot out of atzvut. Now, Rabbi Nachman says in a few different places in the Likutey Moharan something amazing. All the joy that you experience in your life comes from the mitzvot that you do. But I don't feel any joy when I do mitzvahs. So how does that make any sense? The answer is that on Shabbos, that joy is coming from the mitzvahs you did during the week. But because those mitzvahs are trapped in sadness, you don't experience the joy that's there. But they're accumulating. And then when Shabbos comes,
it's a delayed effect.
yeah, to the degree to which that you toiled in spirituality, to that degree you're going to enjoy that Shabbos. You can test this out. I'm telling you, if you spent one whole week, you say this next week, that's it. I'm going to be a Breslover. I'm going to stop working for a week, tell them I'm out. I'm going to say I need to go on leave. I'm sorry, I got to take care of my mental health. Or, today it's very, very nice. You could say my wife gave birth and therefore I need to be on paternity leave, right? Go for it. Enjoy. For 1 week, invest yourself in everything spiritual. And then feel what that Shabbos is like. You're going to see it's a much more gewaldic Shabbos. And you see people who, that their life, even if they are religious, but their religion is meaning it's external. Like, I keep Shabbos, I keep kosher, I keep this. But besides that, I'm just like a secular Jew, right? That's what I think about, that's what I talk about. It's all the same. I've been in those people's homes. They are not enjoying Shabbos. They don't feel anything from Shabbos. Shabbos is not doing anything for them. What's the reason for that? Because they have no mitzvahs that they're pulling out of that place that could be lifted up by the joy in Shabbos. So even though, yes, it's very hard to toil like this in spirituality, but if you know from the beginning, I'm not going to feel the joy right now from them because they're trapped in this place called Atzvut. But they're all getting accumulated in Shabbos, meaning they're all getting accumulated in Olam Haba. That's what's supposed to make you remember. Every Shabbos, when you feel happy and you feel good and you feel excited and you feel yishuv da, tranquility of mind, and you start to reflect on your life and try to redirect yourself. What is all of that? It's to keep you remembering that everything that you're doing in this world, nothing is forgotten. Like the Zohar says, no good thing that you do, even just a good desire you have, is lost. So how come I'm experiencing joy from all of this good? Because every Jew is a pomegranate and is doing good every single day, even a person who doesn't know he's doing it. So then if mitzvahs should be causing joy, so then how come I'm not feeling any joy from all this good I'm doing? Because this is not the place. It's coming from the world to come. So then you might say, okay, but like 70 years of delayed gratification is a lot. Even when I was a little kid, they said, here's an Oreo, here's 2 Oreos. I'll give you 2 if you wait for the whole class. Like, that's brutal. It's almost better just to have the 2 Oreos now. Forget about it. I can move on to something else. The guy, he gets 2 Oreos at the end. Okay, that's great. But I can't wait 70 years to get 2 Oreos or 1,000,000 Oreos. It's a long time. So that's why Rabbi Nachman is saying, no, it's not that you're waiting until then to experience to be happy. You know that that's where happiness is, and you're drawing the happiness from Shabbos into the week. That's what it means to remember Shabbos. You're drawing the joy from the world to come into this world, and that's what perfects this world. When this world is not divorced from the world to come. They're not 2 separate realities. They're directly connected, but we are the ones who need to connect it. And the main way that we connect it is in your mind, by remembering it, constantly remembering it. That's why Rabbi Nachman says a very good thing. When you wake up, the first thing you think about is Olam Haba. One of the Breslov Hasidim says, but it's really hard to remember anything in the morning that you want to remember. So what gives you the best shot to remember Olam Haba in the morning? What do you guys think? Coffee. If you think about it before you go to sleep at night. Now what's going to cause you though to get to the point that I could actually remember to think about it before I go to sleep at night? If you think about it during the day. And guess what's happening when all this is happening? You're remembering Olam Haba. You have to always be thinking about it. That's the only way you're going to remember to do this in the morning. Rabbi Nachman was always thinking about Olam Haba. So because of that, when he woke up in the morning, he remembered it. Why? Because he thought about it before he went to sleep. That is the place of simcha. That's the place of joy. That's the place of freedom. And then it's lifted out from atzvut and gloominess. V'nimshach aleihem menucha v'simcha. We know menucha v'simcha, oh Yehudi, right? The Breslover nigun on this song. Where's it coming from? This Torah. What's menucha v'simcha? It's coming from Shabbos. And what happens? You draw the menucha and the simcha into your mitzvahs, into your atzvut, and you lift it up. Like it says, v'yoled ben v'yikra shema Noach lemor zeh yinachamenu mima'asenu ume'itzvon yadeinu. Right? When is the turning point of the Torah? The first turning point of the Torah is the birth of Noach. Right? There's like 10 generations of like, I don't know what the heck is going on. And then all of a sudden this guy Lemech has a son at 182 years old. And he says, this boy's different. Because he's a Ben. Right? When you are by Sephardim and they're really excited when they find out they have a Ben. So you think it's just something very superficial because their practices are archaic and they haven't catched on that women and men are the same, just with different parts. Okay? No, it's not just that. A Ben represents freedom. What did Lemech say about Noach, his son? I gave birth to a son. I'm calling him Noach, which means rest. Why? Because Zeh Yenachamenu, he is going to bring us rest, Mimasenu, from our work. Ume'itzvon yadenu, from the toil of our hands. And what is the root of the word itzvon? Etzev, which is the root of atzvut, meaning the whole gadlut of Noach is he's menucha v'simcha. He's Shabbos. He's Ben. He's free. And we know that who is Noach? Noach's the tzaddik. So why is Noach free? Because he's cleaving to God. His life is spiritual, so he's free. And guess what? Then he gets to teach us how we can be free also. That is the whole ikar of Noach. That's the whole ikar of the tzaddik, right? Like I told you guys that Rav Kivak said, Likutey Moharan is not about being frum. It's about being freilich. It's not about being religious. It's about being happy. Rabbi Nachman is not trying to make you religious. He's trying to allow you to be happy. But it seems like he's trying to put tremendous weight on me, telling me, these things are not good for me, and these things are really good for you, and making me do all types of weird practices that only Hasidim did in the 1800s. Why am I doing all these things? And Rabbi Nachman says, because it's going to make you happy. It's going to make you happy, because then you're going to be free. Happens to be that this Torah was given on Shabbos, and specifically when Rabbi Nachman's father had visited that Shabbos, so he was actually present for this lesson. Can you imagine the Nacha? Can you imagine your kid is Rabbi Nachman, and he's teaching a Torah lesson in front of all these people, and he's telling you this whole entire lesson, and you get to watch that whole thing? No wonder his name was Simcha. So Rabbi Nachman's dad's name was Simcha. And what Rabbi Nachman often did was, if you don't know the context of the lessons, you don't realize that whatever is going on at that moment is all in the lesson. So it's Shabbos. This lesson's about Shabbos. His dad's name is Simcha. He's speaking about Simcha. Rabbi Nachman's name is Nachman. The root is Noach. Nach. He connected all of it together. Just like that. Teaches it out to everybody. Okay? Meaning to say, what's the beauty of having Noach in your life? He's going to give you rest. He's going to give you shivdat. He's going to let you breathe. He's going to help you to find happiness. How does he help you to find happiness? By you becoming your highest self. And then, yeah.
You said earlier that atzvut, inside atzvut, and the husk of atzvut, inside is simcha. So why don't you just, go to a therapist and pull apart your sadness and go in that way. You're saying go to Shabbos, put all your mitzvot into Shabbat, and then the sadness will go away.
Because
when I just start picking apart and talking about how my dad this and my mom that and my brother this and
I'll give you a mashal that just popped into my head, probably because I'm so jet lagged. When I was in Italy, I spent a semester when I was in college, just before I had even heard of the Torah, right? So it was very popular to take one semester in undergraduate and go abroad. So most people, they go to Barcelona or whatever. I wanted to find the place that was least like America that I could possibly find. And I was told that there is a city in Spain that is the most hardcore Spanish city. They don't know a lick of English over there. And it's so different from America, totally different. I said, what's that place? They said it's called Seville. beautiful city on the river. And that's where I went. I stayed in a family's home, and the family only knew Spanish. And I wasn't able to communicate with them the entire time I was there, which was great. She kept asking me what I want to eat. I'm like pointing at this, and she, whatever. Anyway, while I was there, I used that time, like usually I have 4 classes a day. 4 days of classes. 4 days of classes. I was always looking to figure out how I could have as much rest as possible. So I did something crazy. I took all my 4 days of classes and I put them on 2 days. That gave me 5 days to travel around Europe. 2 days I'm working, then the rest of the day I could do whatever I want. Right? It was pretty crazy, but that's what I did. And I ended up in Rome, which is, very ironic at this point now. We know all these things about Rome according to the Torah, but I loved it in Rome. I loved the food in Rome. I felt like some deep connection to this country of Italy and the city of Rome. And I went to a bar. And when I was at the bar, I was very inebriated. And, most people, like, when they get drunk, a lot of them get, like, angry. The Torah actually speaks about it, right? I become very happy. My cheeks get very red, tremendous simcha on my face, and I'm very gregarious, and I go to people and I ask them how they're doing. And so I happen to be in this bar, and I'm in the bathroom, and I see a guy coming into the bathroom and say, "Hey, how's it going?" I don't know who he is, and I went in for like a handshake and a hug, and he's like, "Dude, it's the bathroom," But he was so intrigued by this person that he was so friendly that he even said hi to me in the bathroom. So we start talking. Apparently he speaks English. And we're sitting down in the corner, and we're having a great conversation. And I found out that he is like a club bouncer, or a club promoter. Sorry, club promoter. Club promoter. And we're having a great conversation. And he says to me, "Do you like cheeseburgers?" This is not very Jewish of a class right now, but I said, "Yeah, I love cheeseburgers, but I can't find any." He goes, "Yeah, because there are no cheeseburgers in Italy. They don't eat cheeseburgers here." So he goes, "But I know a secret place. You want to come with me?" I said, "Sure." I came outside, and I thought this guy was like just like a stam random person at a bar, and there's a car waiting for him with like a driver. And I realized like, oh, this person's like famous or something. And he takes me in his like limo, and he brings me to a restaurant, and in the back of a restaurant, there's a secret room. And in that room, everyone's eating cheeseburgers. This is a real story, by the way. We got so close, so connected, that he said to me at the end, he goes, "David, I think you'd be a great club promoter." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "You make a ton of money. It's really easy. You just be you, whatever. I'll help you out. I'll hook you up with everything while you're here." And literally, I don't know if it's because I was so drunk, but like by the end of the night, I was convinced like this is the best thing I could possibly do in my life. Stay in Rome and be a club promoter for this guy. And I was really thinking about it. I was like considering staying in Rome, not going back to Spain, just telling my parents, "Hey, I decided this." All of a sudden, I tell somebody about the guy. And he said, "Do you know what that guy is?" And I said, "Yeah, he's like a big club promoter or whatever." He said, "Yeah." He goes, "You know what he does to people that work for him?"
What did I miss then?
I said, "What?" He said, "When he doesn't like something that you do, he breaks your limbs." And then I realized, oh, this is like the mafia bosses, like where they're like really whatever, and then when you start working for them and then they abuse you. It's like that.
Whoa.
Okay, so how did this come into my head? Well, I didn't stay there, thank God. But why did this come into my head? Because you asked me, okay, why? You asked me, why don't you go into the atzvut? Because the answer is, he might break your limbs. It's a husk, it's a klipa. It looks really enticing. And in the psychological world, they feel like it's a very great thing to do. Rabbi Nachman says, stay as far away as possible. Why? Because you don't need to go into sadness in order to lift out the joy. You just need Shabbos. The Shabbos is what lifts the joy out of the husk. It's not you entering into Rome.
Got it.
Understand?
I think so. As David would be like a little bit, you might have a little bit of a, what's it called, shitchi life, a little bit of flat transparent life. You don't like the layers of build slightly.
If a
Take
person,
yourself a layer deeper into your emotional.
no, it's not about going into your emotions. It's about a person who struggles with depression. He struggles with sadness,
And he wants to
and he wants
fight
to
it head on.
He wants to fight it head on. He's not strong enough to do that. You have to be really happy to fight sadness.
That's gonna end up breaking your legs and throwing in the ocean.
Yeah.
He's a mafia boss.
He's the mafia boss. He looks like he's good, but that's what a klipa is. He's like, hey, come, I'll give you cheeseburgers, it's gonna be great. And then all of a sudden, Breslov comes, he goes, like if you hang out with that thing, this is what's gonna happen to you. Like, oh my gosh, like that's not what I thought was gonna happen to me. Right? So this is the way out. The way out is through simcha. The mashal that Rabbi Nachman gives is there are times where like you'll be at a wedding and a group of guys will be dancing, right? And you'll see that one guy in the corner and he looks very sad. So people leave him alone. He says you shouldn't leave him alone. You should force him into the circle. This is not very socially, politically correct at this point to do this. They'll tell you you're taking advantage of this person and not allowing him to be free and choose his own space. And
safe space.
Safe space, okay? Why does Rabbi Nachman say you should force him into the circle? Because that Jew is not actually sad. He's happy. But he's trapped in sadness. So what can you do for him? Bring him into the simcha. And you know what's going to happen? You'll see it. I've done this before. The guy who looks gloom, he's like, no, I don't want, no, I don't want, no, I don't want. If you force him into the circle and he's dancing with you, a big smile comes on his face. And you see not only a big smile comes on his face, everyone else is happier also. And you know why? Because Rabbi Nachman says, this is the concept of the Shekhinah in Galut. That Jew has God inside of him. What does that mean that God's inside of a Jew? It means that joy is inside of a Jew. Right? The 24th Torah of Likutey, Rabbi Nachman says the Shekhinah is joy. It's crazy. So this person who's sad, what is that? That's the klipa. But if you see sadness, there must be joy inside of it. So bring him into joy. It's not that one sad guy commiserates with the other sad guy and somehow they're going to find joy for that. That doesn't work. That's what we're not saying. You have to have a very strong, very foundational sense of joy. Then you can slowly bring sadness into it. And you're going to see that the joy will pull out the joy of that sadness.
Yeah.
And I use this idea to think about a zamra, right? Rabbi Nachman's foundational teaching on how to be happy. To constantly think about and say out your good points. And it makes me think of Ketoret, right? Ketoret is a korban, it's a sacrifice that they did in the temple. And it says in Chazal that it's Hashem's favorite korban. It makes him the most besimcha, that you give this korban. So what is this korban? It's 10 really good scents, and one, the worst smell in the world. So, but the chidush, the novelty of this 11 spice combination is that very bad smelling smell, while it smells very, very bad on its own, in combination with those 10 other smells, it actually makes the whole thing smell better. So this is the way I think of...
It's like the malchus of the... It's like the malchus in bad smell.
It's the atzvut in the simcha. It's the taking that thing that's sad and bringing it into an overwhelming amount of joy. That's what elevates and uplifts it. So too, if I just start trying to work on myself and asking Hashem to help me, but you're coming in with sadness, you're coming in with atzvut, because the week is atzvut, the day is atzvut, your life is atzvut. That's what the life that we're living in. So when you come to Yipodedu, what do you think it's going to be? Atzvut. So Rabbi Nachman says, start saying good things about yourself. Start speaking out good things that you've done. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to feel a lift. You're going to feel a lift. After you say 10 good things, now talk about the one thing that you want to work on. Then you can actually work on it. Because if you start with that thing, you're just going to fall deeper into sadness. It's this whole dance circle. It's this whole simcha, atzvut analogy, the joy and the atzvut. It's a very, very deep thing. Okay? This refers to Shabbos, which is the concept of sun and Noach. Why? Because the Zohar says Shabbos is naicha, the same word for Noach in Aramaic, rest for those above and those below. Why? Because Shabbos, or Noach, or the sun, menachem, he comforts, sameach, and he makes happy, a kol min atzut, everyone from their gloominess. Like Lemech said about his son Noach, zeh yenachemenu, this one is going to bring us comfort. This one's going to bring us relief. And when a person asks me, what's so special about Rabbi Nachman? There's many tzaddikim. It's true. Many, many tzaddikim. There's many living tzaddikim. Also true. But this one comforts me. This one brings me relief. This one brings me joy in a world full of sadness. That I can't find anywhere else. And when a person merits Lashon HaKodesh, which is linked to Shabbos, he causes the Kedusha and the Simcha of Shabbos to be drawn into the 6 weekdays. So again, putting the whole thing together. When you perfect your speech, which again is speech where you speak kindly to others and empower them, speech of tzedakah, speech of tshuva, I'm working on myself through my words. 3, I am advocating to Hashem to rip up and decrease and sweeten challenges that people are going through. And 4, that I am trying to influence myself and others through speech to draw closer to Hashem. That's called perfect speech. That's called Lashon HaKodesh. When I bring that Lashon HaKodesh into Shabbos, it has a reciprocal and reverse effect, where through that vessel of perfected speech, I am drawing the simcha from Shabbos into my weekdays, so that now I am actually free even during the week. I'm actually happy all the time. You understand how all these things connect?
Could you even go so far as saying it's about the shlita of the mata?
That's right, because now you're ben, you're free. You're above meta. You have moved above him because the world of Atzilut, which is the place of Ben, is higher than these lower worlds. So if you can manage somehow to get to that place while you're still here, so then you're above his dominion. He's there, but you're not being oppressed by him. Paro is not whipping you. You're like the Levi'im, that you're free even though everyone else is enslaved and you're all in the same place. I'm not getting emotional right now. You're all in the same place. Okay. This is because the Holy Tongue is linked to Shabbos, and so Shabbat joy is channeled in 6 weekdays through him. And this is that pasuk that we said from the beginning in Tilim. We spoke about the goal of this Torah is to perfect your speech through truth. Kel, Elokim, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Daber, right? Diber. That pasuk, Rabbi Nachman says, is alluding to the 3 types of truth, which is Kel, Elokim, and Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is Tefillah, Torah, and Shiduchim. And Daber or Diber is referring to perfect speech. So what did we say? How do you get perfect speech? Through the truth which is being infused in your speech. Now Rabbi Nachman says, what's the gematria of those 4 words, including the words themselves? So again, you have Kel,
31.
Elokim.
50-something.
You should have just stopped at the first one, pretending like you weren't listening anymore. You would have sounded very smart. Okay, Yud Kei Vav Kei, 26. Okay, and Diber. And you add for each word itself, which is called the kolel. It's not just like a made-up thing to make it work. It's a real thing. Okay, if you add all of it together, it's gematria 353. What is that the same gematria of? Simcha. Simcha. So again, Rabbi Nachman saying, when do you get simcha? When you have shleimut hadibur, when you have perfected speech. That's called Lashon HaKodesh, and you now draw simcha. So, we have finished this section, and we're going to end the class. We'll continue Bezrat Hashem next week. But the primary thing that we're trying to get out of this is like this. I want to be happy. Where does joy come from? Joy does not come from my sports team winning, because as soon as I get the joy from that happening, guess what happens? That joy leaves. That's not called simcha. Simcha is not that sensitive, that it just comes and goes like that. Simcha is something permanent. It's something lasting. It's something that infuses you, okay? Where do you get it from? It comes from being free. How do you get to the point that you can achieve freedom? Meaning that I can be living with something greater in everything that I do. It's through perfected speech. Lashon HaKodesh. And how do I get this perfected speech? Through truth. And where do I get that truth from? Rabbi Nachman says you get that truth from Todah and Halacha. By learning Halacha and saying thank you to Hashem, you draw that truth into your speech. Your speech is perfected. You bring that speech to Shabbos, and then you can actually draw the Simcha from Shabbos into your weekday. So what did the whole Torah start at? Yemei Chanukah, that the days of Chanukah are like the days of Olam Haba, Rabbi Nachman says, like the pleasure of the world to come. Rabbi Nachman wants us to be happy. However, to be happy is not the way that you think it is. So, thank God Hashem sent us Noach to give us relief from our work, to give us comfort from our itzavon, toil, our sadness. Our ability to be able to draw that from him is to know what the Zohar says. The Zohar says in the beginning of Bereshit that the tzaddik Yesod Olam is called Shabbos. He is Shabbos. Like we said about Noach. Noach is Shabbos. How do I get to be happy? I need to remember Shabbos. I need to connect to Shabbos. I need to bring Shabbos into my life, into my days. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all have an amazing Shabbos and take Shabbos and know that that doesn't just have to be on that day. Rabbi Nachman is giving us a path that we can actually experience the joy and comfort of Shabbos every day of the week through Yemei Chanukah. Everyone have a good Shabbos.